I'm a Brazilian guy, 20 years old today, but around 12 when this story happened. Just a normal school day, boring subjects, annoying people, the usual. I come from a good family with a somewhat good financial situation, so at the time, I had with me not only a Motorola V3 cell phone, which was like top tier back at the time, also uncommon for kids to have one. Every day after school, it would take a while for my father to pick me up with this car, which used to be a silver Mervia. It was also the same car that he used to drive me to school with. That being said, one day I was waiting for my dad to pick me up, and I did so by playing new Super Mario Bros. On my DS, which I, of course, took to school. That's when my cell phone rang, and I heard the voice of somewhat cheery man saying, "Hey Pete, it's your Uncle Paul. I'm here to pick you up for your dad. Come outside." The man said, and I simply answered with okay and left through the gate. The thing is, it was still early, way earlier than my dad usually picks me up. When I thought about that, I went back inside and waited for another call, and it came fast. "Where are you?" the man asked. I replied with, "Yeah, I don't see you." And he sighed on the other side, giving me instructions. "I'm with the same blue Corolla that I dropped you today in the morning, Pete. Come on," he said, and hang up. He was getting impatient. My 12-year-old brain processed what was happening and connected the dots. The thing is, I had no uncles with a name that started with P. They were all A's. Also, couldn't be my mom's brother because he's been dead for a long time now. Last thing was that no one called me Pete, an American nickname, but my family, those being my brothers, sisters, and my parents. I started to get nervous and talked to my friends about it. After all, some of them were still there. Basically, all they said was, "Yeah, tell him to go fuck himself." Now, I'm not one to like that to cuss, so I went to the principal for help. On my way there, the man called again and I pick up. This time he was angry. "Why the fuck are you taking so long, you son of a bitch? Blue Corolla, are you brain dead? Get out here with that stupid video game of yours," and then he hung up. I instantly froze. Thoughts rushed through my head, such as, "They are trying to kidnap me. Is this real?" And so on. I started running to the principal's office. I was getting nervous, and I called my dad, which answered in a hurry. I took a deep breath not to seem scared. "Dad, did you, by any chance, send someone named Paul here to pick me up?" I asked, my heart pounding to hear what I wanted, and that's what I got. "No, whoever's calling you, do not go outside. I'll be right there," he said and hung up. I went to the office, bursting in tears, asking for someone to go to get the man that was probably out there waiting for me in a blue Corolla. I gave the teacher and the principal the number he was calling me from, and they called to no avail, so they decided to go outside and check the blue Corolla by themselves. I stayed in the office and got another call. This time I picked it up, and my hands were shaking, but I knew he couldn't harm me. "What's taking you so long, you little shit?" he screamed. "Listen, I know you are no uncle of mine. You have no idea of which car I come to school in, and you are not going to kidnap me for whatever reason. I'm not going outside," I screamed. "Again?" he said quietly. I screamed a what and called him a second crazy, and he said, "You are not coming out again. You've been out. You just know better." "Fuck you," he screamed before laughing like a maniac and hanging up. I held my phone on my hands and stared at nothingness for a while until the teacher and the principal came back saying that there was no such thing as a blue Corolla. Shortly after, my dad arrived and I was escorted to a taxi with him with the guards. I sat there and did nothing as my dad talked on the phone to track the number that had been calling and find someone by the name of Paul. I took the rest of the week off of school, and eventually I'd have nightmares about being outside of school and being grabbed. After this happened, I went back to school the next week and instantly joined the kendo club in order to know something about self-defense, especially if I got the chance to be armed with something. Years later, my mom and dad divorced. Saw that coming though. After all, when this episode happened, I was living with my older brothers because they didn't want to involve me in their fights. However, once I came back home with my mom, I found out they divorced because my father had around 5 levers in 5 different places, and one even called my mom saying, "You won. I've tried everything to keep him for me, but you won." Or at least that's what my mother says. I wonder, could all of this kidnap story be part of a scheme from one of those levers to steal my dad from us? If it was, then that just makes me uncomfortable to know that a human being is capable of probably killing a kid for whatever they want. Good thing is that today I'm 20, a teacher and a regional champion of Kendo, and I've never heard of Paul ever again, but I still wonder what would have happened to me if I didn't have the decency to go back inside and kept looking for him. So Uncle Paul, let's not meet. This all took place when I was around 8 or 9. I lived in one of the more poor neighborhoods of Las Vegas and had always been taught the dangers of adults with bad intentions. I had a best friend at the time, Gavin, who apparently had not been taught the same as me. Every single day, Gavin and I would walk home from the school, the 3 blocks from the elementary school, down to his house and then finally mine at the end of the street. We had been doing this for the better half of the school year without incidents. However, all it took was one singular moment for that to change. Gavin and I were making our regular trek from school towards Gavin's house, making jokes and exploring what we were going to do that day. It was usually watching Pokemon and reenacting our favorite scenes from the most recent episode. As we turned onto his street, a beat-up, old red truck stopped on the road, and a ratty-looking older man with a salt and pepper beard and bloodshot hues stuck his head out of the grimy-looking vehicle and immediately leaned towards Gavin and I, sinking and I, in a sticky, innocent voice, filled to the brim with worry, he asked, "Would you two help me find my dog? I think she's just down the block. She likes to run off on me, and I could really use your help." I was skeptical at best. I shook my head and explained that I really had to get home and that my mother was waiting for me. But Gavin promptly said yes and ran towards the truck without a second's hesitation. I was frozen in place, my frame icy over in a cold fear and suspicion. The truck took off, and I was left on the side of the road, cursing Gavin and wondering what in the hell what I was going to do now. As a child, I didn't realize that moment could have been the last I would ever see of my best friend. I didn't put it together that the man was full of evil intentions and just wanted a child or two to do God knows what to them. A dozen thoughts ran through my mind of whether to get Gavin's mother or my own at the moment. The very real thought that he was attempting to kidnap wasn't on my mind. All I knew that he gave me a very bad vibe, and I was never going to go off with strangers. I had only made a couple more steps down the road before the unmistakable clunking of the man's red truck hissed up behind me. I froze in fear before it quickly took off, speeding away, leaving Gavin in its midst. I was so relieved. I turned and saw my friend clutching $1 to his chest and running towards me, showing off his new reward. I asked him if they had found the dog, and Gavin said no, that they drove around the block, and he was given the dollar and dropped back off on our street. We never told our parents, and I never saw the man again, but it wasn't until years later that I realized that the only reason the man let Gavin go was because I didn't go out there and out there, and an 8-year-old girl would have known what this man looked like and what car he drove if Gavin never came back. So creepy fake dog owner in the red truck, let's not meet ever, ever again.